I really like how you were able to tweak your approach as you better understood the problem. I noticed you had some struggles with the left equal to middle equal to right Boolean expressions, but you also got out of it. Maybe after some nudges and your own thinking, you were able to figure out your way through it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Whiteboard Confidential. I'm Adam from interviewing.io, and today's mock is deceptively tricky. The problem is allocating seats in a movie theater at massive scale. Now, the candidate has about a year and a half experience at a Series B startup, and this was their very first system design interview. The session was led by a staff engineer with experience at Google and other top companies. What stands out here is how the candidate lays out functional and non-functional requirements, works through edge cases and space optimizations, and refines early ideas until they arrive at a scalable solution. They also consider how the system would function under heavy load, and what kind of logging would be required to make it reliable in production. Alright, let's dive in.
So, I won't disclose my name, but I've been working at the top tier engineer for almost 6 years so far. I spent some time working for Google and other companies out here in the Bay Area. I'm your mock interviewer for today. So I just want to kind of give a bit of an intro. And yeah, can you tell me a bit more about yourself?
Yep, sure. So I am a software engineer. I have been working for a year and a half, almost 2 years, fresh out of college, and I'm working at a Series B startup. But I have a Google interview lined up for the onsite, so I'm just prepping for that particular round. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm definitely wishing you best of luck. I've done on-sites for Google. They are
Yep.
rigorous, but they are also passable.
Yep. That's
Okay.
for sure.
And yeah, just to get some background, so you mentioned that you have 1.5 to 2 years. So I take that you're targeting for an L3 or L4 type of position at Google. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. I'm targeting for an L3.
Okay, just clarifying. And yeah, what programming language are you most comfortable in?
I'm most comfortable in Python, so I
Okay.
would go with Python. I think I can pick Python 3 from this list.
Perfect. Yeah, please pick the language that you're most comfortable in doing your development in. I am familiar with Python 3. And yeah, so just with some heads up, if you want to grab some water or if you need to take a break, feel free to do so.
Yep.
And also, if you want to use pen and paper to help crystallize or your thought process, feel free to let me know. So don't feel like you're constrained. If you want to toggle the whiteboard or set the environment to your advantage, you're welcome to do so.
Yep, for sure.
And I'll try to follow along with you. So don't just feel like you have to be writing fit, or if you even want to dive into pseudocode, you take it how
Yeah.
you want to evolve it.
All right. Yep, love it. I
Perfect.
think I'm ready. I see a toggle whiteboard here as well. So if I need to draw something to you, there'll be that.
Yeah, I just want to ask, you're familiar with the environment and all the setups, right?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Sounds good to me. Okay, so I'll be taking a problem from leetcode.com, and let me know if you have or have not seen this problem. So you can go to, yeah,
Yes, I have not seen this problem actually. So
okay,
is it? Let
perfect.
me just go to the
It
link.
is from LeetCode. It's called Cinema Seat Allocation. I'm going to copy paste the word problem description. And yeah, I'll let you take your time to read through the problem and make sure that you understand it.
Yep, thank you. I'll take some moments. So yeah, given I'm also gonna read it out loud just to be clear where I'm at. So I have reserved seats containing the number of seats already reserved. For example, if it's 3 and 8, reserved seats at I is at 3 and 8 means that the seat located in row 3 and labeled with 8 is already reserved. So I guess if I were to imagine it like a 2D array, then at row 3 and column 8, that's reserved. Cool. So return the maximum number of 4-person groups you can assign on the cinema seats. So a 4-person group occupies 4 adjacent seats in one single row. So seats across like 3, 3 and 3, 4 are not considered to be adjacent, but there is an exceptional case on which an aisle is split a 4-person group. In that case, the aisle split a 4-person group in the middle means to have 2 people on each side. Okay, cool. So what I'm counting is the maximum number of 4-person groups I can assign. So in the example on LeetCode, I can see that there are 3 rows, and then on the first row there's 4 in the middle, and then on the second row there's also 4. And then on the third one there's also 4. So I guess like on the second one, the reason that I cannot pick 7 to 10 is because it's not split in a 2 and 2 way. It's split in a 1 and 3 way. So then that is not valid, and I have to go with the 2 and 2 option. Similarly, that's why I cannot pick from 1 to 4. And okay, and then for the last one, yep. Oh, because I'm trying to go for the maximum, I also cannot go from 4 to 7. I have to go from 2 to 5, and then from 6 to 9. Okay, I can see it. All right. Yep. So I'm trying to come up with a brute force approach. And so what I'm thinking is, so n here is denoting the number of seeds. So like I know for a fact that my array, let's say, will be n times 10, right? Whatever n is, I would have 10 slot per a seat. So let's say like this is my first. Sorry, I think maybe I'll just number it 1, 2, 3, and then ... go to 10. Same for here, ... go to 10. So yeah, and then there'll be more of this. So I can represent this as a matrix, and then for the reserved seats, for each of the things, for each of the seats in here, I can mark it on this matrix somehow as taken. So let's say if I just have a bunch of slots like this, right? I can mark it accordingly on my matrix. And then let's say if I were to mark it, now I could go through row to figure out how many, like what is the maximum number of a 4-person group I can assign here. And then for each of the row, I just do that and then add it to some kind of answer sum variable. So, and then in the end, I just try to return this answer. So I think, let me think about the logic to try to pick from a single row. So pick from a single row. So I know that the row is not as simple as like adjacent slots, because the first 3 are divided from the next 4, and then it's divided by the last 3. So let's say if like I need to see the available slots, but basically from 0 to 2 is a different area, and then from 3 to 6 is a different area, and then the remaining, like from 7 to 9 is also a different area. So I think, for example, let me take an example of the first row here. I was given 1 and 4. Sorry. So I think actually 1 and 2, 1 and 3. Is it okay if I take the example from LeetCode?
Yes, it's okay to leverage the examples from LeetCode. I want you to use those examples since you had graphical understandings, and because they're minimal examples.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think I'll just take the first example. It seems simple enough. And then, so I know that this slot is taken. Let me just put a dot in here, like an X. And then I also know that 1, 3 is taken, so it's equivalent to this. And then the last one, this one is taken. So then when I look at this, I think one of the things that I could do is basically there are actually only I think there are only like 3 maximum for rows. There are only 3 possible slots that someone could have, right? So like even if everything is empty on this row, right? If let's say if this row is not taken at all, I think the maximum number of 4 people group is going to be 3. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's because, first of all, the one in the middle will be what we focus on. So that will be one group. And then the second one is from basically from index 1 to index 4. So that's another potential group. And then the third one is like from index like from basically like the last 2 of the middle and then the first 2 of the last section. So yeah, so maybe I can restrict what I'm checking here since I know that there are only 10 seats in a row. So maybe I can just do something like I have a loop and then I go through the 4 slots here and then I go through the 4 slots here at any point if it's at any point. So basically it's like a loop of 3 iterations. So like a loop of 3 iterations. And at any point if any of these is like picked already, then I just moved on to the next iteration. So like I would start the iteration at index 2 and then at index 3 because it's the beginning of this 4 seat like group, and then at index 1 2 3 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and then at index 7. So I think it's going to be 2 3 and 7. I'm going to start checking, and then yeah, in the case where like these 3 are available, then the maximum that I could have for a row is 3, and I would just add it to my answer variable in here, if that's okay. So
Yeah.
I think that's the brute force approach that I could come up with for this. Regarding like the space complexity, of course, because I'm trying to recreate this whole theater seating, it will be basically like n times 10, whatever the n is. And yeah, and then I have to loop through like this, but it's still less than n times 10. And for the time complexity, I'm going through each row. So and then for each row, I'm having 3 iterations. So that would be like an O of n time complexity. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree
Right.
that I like where you're starting with the brute force idea, and I think you're definitely on the right track. I think you're like on a right track.
Yep.
One thing that I'd like to see us is if we can like take a bit of time to try to optimize for either time or space complexity, and see if we can get away from having to do an O of n space complexity approach where n is the number of like sort of aisles it's the number of rows. So if you notice like on line 25, n can blow up to 10 to the power of 9. So can we look
Right.
for like other variables or other constraints to cut down on the space on the space? So it may either be like you may either say take space from O of n to a better bigger complexity, or maybe you could cut down space and time by some constant factor, or leverage a different variable. So say
Yeah.
n O versus n. So let's try to think about that aspect.
Yes. So I realized that definitely I don't need to recreate this visually because I can just make a for loop through n, and then like I know that basically like I have a for I in range something and then for j in range something. And then at this index, like or like at this coordinate I and j, I could check if it's taken by checking against the reserved seats array. And maybe to optimize checking against the reserved seat array, I can also turn this into a set of coordinates for fast access. So that would be a way to optimize what I already have in terms of space complexity. In terms of time complexity, I'm trying to think if there's a way for me to make this faster than a loop. Right now, I'm more leaning towards like just laying out the like basically having the structure in a for loop without having any extra variable to store space, and then when I have the coordinate check against this reserved seats, and then I can continue with my loop of 3 iterations that I mentioned here. But yeah, like if this is the number of rows, then I would still at the maximum like check for it 10 to the 9 times. So I'm also trying to find out if there is some way of doing this with faster with a better time complexity.
If I think one thing that I could say is, could you imagine a case where your cinema is like your movie is really unpopular and maybe only like one or two people are actually sitting in a really big cinema? So, what would you? How would that kind of help you? Like a case where you don't have that many movie watchers.
Oh. I see, I see. Okay, so it's kind of like a sparse array thing. Yeah, so maybe I should focus on reserved seats here because the length of reserved seats is obviously way smaller than the length of the number of rows. So maybe how about what if I start with reserved seats? Like maybe I could sort it first or something by the number, like by the row. So and then by the column, so that like let's say if I were to have 4 3 here, and then maybe I can have like 4 6 next. And I mean, of course, like 1 4 and 1 7 will go first. So let's say if I were to focus on this reserve seats and sort it, now I know that I only have to focus on 2 rows, which is row number 1 and then row number 4. I don't have to care about the rest. I could assume that it has maximum, it can give me the maximum group, which is 3. Um, so yeah, in this case, I think I only have to check for 2 rows instead of, but wait, there, sorry, I was wrong. This was the 4. So in this case, maybe I only have to check for 2 rows instead of all 4 of them. So, yeah, maybe I should focus on the reserved seats here and try to go from there. And the sorting, it's going to take more time complexity, but I was just thinking that it would be way easier to check if something is on the same row according to the loop of 3 iteration that I have. Um, so that's why.
Okay, that
But
makes sense.
yeah, like just I think yeah, it's better to check the reserve seats. But um, yeah, so I think that would be my rough approach. I I'm also trying to think if I can like optimize it in any other way. But um yeah, most likely actually I think I don't even have to sort reserved seats, to be honest. I can just loop through this array and then I grab the rows that I need to check, and then I think that'll be it. Like grab the rows that I need to check the number of seats, or like the number of seats available. And then for the rest, then I just add 3 because I know that they're all empty. And maybe I can turn this reserve seats into to a set for faster access. So in that case, I think it would just be O of n, with n being the length of reserve seats or something.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah, like I think it could work. So yeah, let me know if I should go over like some pseudocode, or maybe I should start coding stuff like that.
I think you should go with what you're most comfortable in. So if you feel more comfortable in pseudocode, go with pseudocode. If you want to get started, dive into code, dive into code.
Okay, sure, thank you. I think I'll just dive into the code and maybe I could do dry run and go over it after. So I'm going to make a function called like reserve seats, and that takes in an array of sorry, the seats, or like I'm just going to call it seats. And then I know that this is a 2D array. So let me just make an array of what to start with. So I'm going to loop through seats. I'm going to say like for row and column in the seats, I know that actually I think my array could be a set. I don't think it matters that it has to be a um I don't think it matters that it has to be an array. So I'm just gonna say like for the row here, then I would just add the row into my set. So I should call it S, not to be confused. And then for the columns, I think I do not care about it at this point. So then I have my like start or like rows to check, something like this. So call it rows to check. And then for the seats here, I'm just gonna have like seats set. And then I think I can do a set operation around the array seats. So this would be it. And then I would loop through my set of rows to check. So I'm going to say, and actually within each of those, I only care about 3 things. So but that's for later. So I'm gonna say for a row in rows to check. So for each of these rows, I have an iteration of 3. So I'm just gonna say for column in range, I start so basically, or like for columns in, and maybe I will start with an array. So it will be 0. Oh no, sorry, not 0. So let me look at the index again. I'm gonna start at index 1. So that'll be 1. And then the second one I'm going with is 3, 1, 3, and 5. Yeah. Oh no, sorry, not 5. 1, 3, and I think is 6. Wait, no. Actually, I'm right. It's 5. I'm just bad at counting. All right. Cool. So then now I have the row and the columns. I'm going to make sure that for the next, so like now I have row and column, and I'm going to make sure that for the next 4 slots it doesn't get taken by checking it against the seat set that I have here. So I'm gonna say for I in range 4.
Okay.
And then I'm going to have the row, and then I'm going to have the column plus I. So then if at any time this array, actually it's not an array. Hold on. I think I have to make it like this. Because it's divided by a comma in my original array. So I think I have to say if row and column plus I is in my fit stat, then I have to basically break out of this most inner loop and then continue with the next set of column. I think maybe there is some optimization I could do here, but I'm just gonna think of it simply as breaking out of it. And actually, I think I need to have a count within this. So I'm going to say like, okay, if it's in here, then I break out of my most recent loop, which is this one. And then actually I shouldn't break. I think, yeah, okay. I'm breaking out of this for loop. So I think it's okay. Otherwise, if it's not in the, it said, if this is done, then I will have to +1 to my count. Actually, yeah, I think breaking here will break out of this closer this loop. So I think I'm good here, because in the end, and then it will go on to the next thing. But I'm not sure if I'm counting correctly. It's all but okay, I'll go over it later. So yeah, so that's the rows to check, and then I know the number of rows I have because it's given to me in the form of n. So let me just I forgot that n here, so that would be like n minus rows to check, and then this would times 3 is my answer. So in the end, I'm basically return C plus actually C cannot be here, so let me just put it outside, and then or like basically it's counting the number of slots in each row. So I think it would still work, and then in the end, basically I'm trying to find C plus 3 times n minus rows to check. Actually, is it 3? Yes, I think it's 3. So it will look something like this. I think maybe
I want to stop you for a second. I think that's a good question you just brought. Is it free? Do you think we could take a look at the problem description and verify? and check if we're following the requirements.
Yeah, that's for sure. So,
So I think you're on the right track, but I think we should
oh,
take a look at the problem statement and look at what the ask is.
yeah. Okay, so maximum number. Okay, so I think first of all, what I realized is that my reserved seats is one index, so I need to pay attention to that. So I just take reserved seats is one index instead of zero index. So definitely something I have to do. And the next thing is maximum of 4-person groups I can assign.
Just a second. I need a refresh. I got disconnected. Can you still hear me?
Yep, I can still hear you.
Okay. I just need to reconnect.
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. It's a transient failure. Let's get back to where you were talking.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I realized that I cannot check for the middle part here. If I decide to go with the first one, then basically if row, like if column 2 to 9 is free, then the maximum that I could go with is 2 and actually not 3. So it's kind of there's a constraint here basically with the columns. Um so I think, let me think about how to do it. So that basically there's a constraint here with the problem, because if section 1 and 3 is free, the max root return is 2, not 3. And the way that I'm counting right now, I'm actually counting 3 for it, which is wrong. So either I take the middle part or I take the two sides. So I cannot take 3. It's not 3 for the case where all the seats are empty. So this should not be 3 to begin with. This should be 2. And then yeah, the way that I'm counting here is wrong. So I think I have noticed several things. And so I think I'll fix these problems. So first of all is my index, and second of all is that for a maximum, like we can only take a maximum of 2 for a row instead of 3, like what I said before. So I'm going to look at this code again. So basically I want to make sure that if it starts from 1 and 5, then it has to be occupied. Otherwise, like from 3 it has to be occupied. Okay. Let me think about this a little bit. All right, so rows to check. Okay, so I think I can do a 2 separate loops, kind of. It would still be the same thing, but it would just check them separately. So
Well, I have a question. Like, do we need there are 2 loops, but how many cases are we checking in a sense? Like, how many configurations of 4-person seatings are available? You sort of talk about a seating of 2 to 5 and 6 to 9. What are the other configurations if that exists?
Oh yeah, like it has to be blank from 2 to 9. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I want to, it has to be blank from 2 to 9, which would already include the 4 to 7 being, oh yeah, which would already include the 4 to 7 being blank.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
all right,
there's 3 configurations. There's 2 to 5, 4 to 7, and you mentioned that.
yes. Yep. So technically, so I see now. So maybe I would just need to check basically a loop for whatever in range from 2 to 10, which is not including, but it's basically from 2 to 9 essentially. So if it's all blank, then I have 2 groups here, so I can add 2 to my count. Otherwise, like otherwise if they're not blank, then I need to check if or like have some kind of, let's say have some kind of like variable. Let's say like basically my variable is middle empty or something, where I can basically also check if middle is empty, and then let's say when I get out of this, um is like basically if I didn't add 2 and then middle is empty, middle empty is true, then maybe I can just add it to my count as well. So essentially I would have to check from column 2 to 9, but that will already give me the information on 4 to 7 already.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I could do something like this, and then like maybe middle empty is set to false in the beginning, so it's easier for me to check. So in that case, I think I will just fix this code. Instead of this for loop, I'm saying like for column in range to, actually I have to fix my index first because everything starts from 1. So rows to check would be 1, and then okay, for rows for row and rows to check, or I think I can still do this. So I would just say like 2 to 10 essentially, and then from 2 to 10, let's say I have like is middle empty, and I'm assuming that it's false to begin with. So now I'm checking like if I'm checking if the row and the column is in my reserved seats or not. So basically at any point, if let me think about it. So like if this is in the reservation, then row and column is in reservation, then this row and column, yeah, then basically I cannot add to, but I still have to check from, so I guess like maybe I'm thinking too much. I just need to check it in there.
I think you're on the right track, but you're fixating too much on the single case of like the indexes 2 to 9 here. I think to get you back on the right track, like again, you mentioned there's 3 configurations of seatings with your index strategy. Like there's seats from 2 to 5, there's seats from 6 to 9, and there's seats from 4 to 7, right?
Yep.
And with this 2 to 10 approach, like the 2 to 10 is a combination of 2 to 5 and 6 to 9, right?
Yep.
So if you didn't have the 2, what would, I guess the way to kind of steer you is like, if you didn't have the 2 to 10 available, but you still have to check like other like configurations what if you had to check the configurations individually? So say 2 to 10 wasn't fully available because someone is sitting at 8 or someone is sitting at 3, right? Like you could have those 2 type of cases. So maybe if we think about checking groups individually, it could help you with checking the scenario of the groups in totality, right?
Yep.
So what if we can
Okay,
kind of like, could we kind of like decompose the problem into its constituent cases?
Yep, I think maybe it's better for my thinking if I do that. Because I was kind of confused here. So okay, I think I would say like I would have 3 case. So then I would make 3 for loop in here, just to have my 3 case to see like it's left empty, it's middle empty, and then it's right empty, and then I can go from there. So the first one is from 2 to 5. So I'm gonna say for colon range 2 to 6. And then the second one would be for column in range 4 to 8. And then the last one would be for the column in range, instead of 4 to 8, that would be 6 to 10. All right, 6, 10. So from this I can determine if the group can be made. So basically like so if my row and columns is in my set, then I know that I cannot do this, so I have to break. Similarly, if my row and column is in reserved seats, then I have to break from here, and the last one as well. then I have to break from here. But in the case that it actually managed to finish, I think, how do I check for it? So I think I'm gonna, let me think. So let's say I'm assigning that like left is true in the beginning. So maybe like left equals middle equals right equals to true. So if I have to break, then at least I'll just toggle it to false. And then middle equals to false. And then right equals to false in this case. So then at the end, when I finish checking all of these, I can say that for this row, if left and right, then I know that for my count, I can add 2 confidently. Otherwise, else if middle is available, then I can just add 1. But yeah, I think maybe this will clean it up way much more. So I still have like the count here. And I check for left, middle, and right. So by default they're true, but if they cannot be made, then I switch to false, and then I have an if statement here to count. And hello? Hi. Can you still hear me? Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I got cut again. Okay. Your top.
Yes. I don't know if you caught the last part, but I was basically like making um I'm basically making like Boolean variables to check left and middle and right, and default them to true, and then if they cannot be made, then I just switch to false. And yeah, so if there's left and right, then I just add 2 to my count. Otherwise, if there's only middle, then I add middle to my count. And then in the end, I think I can just return basically the count, or like I can add it to the count as well, whatever the count already has. I add it with 2 times and times minus rows to check, and then I can return my count. So I think this was my solution.
Yeah, I think that this is on the right track, but I want to ask if you think we're missing any edge case scenarios, or if you could walk through the for loop structures and see if there's somewhere where you may be adding a count, where you may not be adding a count. So I could tell you, but I want to see if you can catch it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So maximum of right for adjacent 1 in a single row.
Yeah, because I think like the code is mostly correct, but I feel like it could break in some edge case scenarios. So if you can think about like an edge case that you might be forgetting, it's gonna help you
Yes.
with like a single row, or with like a single row configuration. I don't want to give you it's not an edge case where you have multiple rows, but think about somewhere that you're not a scenario that you're not accounting for.
Yep. So I mean, I'm thinking of like an empty row. I'm just like naming my ideas here, not testing on it yet. Or like a full row. That'll be the second case. Or like a row where like a row with 2 to 9 filled up. 2 to 9 filled up. That would not be an edge case yet. So let me think about another edge case. 2 to 5. Or maybe if it's alternating, I don't know if I've checked for it yet. Like I think it will still work in the case that the seats are alternating. So Let me think.
Hmm.
4-person group in the middle, so 2 people on each side. Um, one
You know,
row.
kind of checking for that middle at the standalone case, right? Like Elif middle, right? Like
Yeah.
can you walk me through why you're checking the Elif middle at the standalone case, if not the left and right?
Um, yep. So I'm checking it as a standalone case because in the case where it's an empty row, then you go like I'm not gonna. I don't think I can draw it here, but we're going to have 10 slots, and then I know that um basically even when the whole row is empty, the maximum that I can put people in, like the maximum number of 4-person groups is only 2 instead of 3. So that's why, and I know like 2 is a bigger number than 1, which is why I checked for the left and the right first, because if there is left and right, then I don't even care if middle is available because it already implies that middle is available and that's the maximum group that we can have. So if there is left and right, then I just add 2, which is the maximum number of 4-person groups to this answer. And otherwise, if because if let's say if left is actually I don't know if left is yeah, or like if left is occupied on the first 2 slots and right is occupied uh on like those 2 slots as well, then maybe middle is still available if it's not set to false here. Um so yeah. I know that I'm probably like I do have some overlapping part in this.
I'm trying to help nudge you without giving it away. Maybe a good example is what's a weird case where you can test a single person sitting in a row where your code doesn't do its counting correctly?
Single person sitting. Oh.
Maybe like you plop a person somewhere and you're like, oh, I'm not accounting for that correctly. It's just a single person.
Oh.
And you have 10 sheets, right?
Yeah, maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I think um I know. Like if it doesn't check correctly. Um so maybe I don't know if well because
Yeah,
first of all
you said something right, which is somewhere in the middle. So let's use that.
okay, so let me try to draw it out.
Mhm. Well,
I
you can use pen and paper or you can use the notepad. I don't mind. Whichever helps.
Yep.
But yeah, let's think about somewhere in the middle of a single person.
Okay, I see. So I'll draw it like this. So let's say like I think in the middle that could overlap with this. Oh. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe here. So I think I can see why it's breaking because obviously my left is not going to be present and also my middle will not be present, but my right is still fully functional. So then in this case, it still should return 1 instead of like 0, the way that I'm doing it here. So I think I have to change my if statement here. So I would say, all right, if left and right, then I add 2. Um, else if else if there is the middle or um, let me think about it. Because yeah, if I take the middle, then okay, I assume that the middle is not broken, but then there's also a case where there's just left or right. Then in this case, I'm going to add 1, but I think this might still be wrong because um actually maybe not. So like left and right, in this case, it will take um these 2 areas. So this is for sure will be here. So if I go in this middle case, it means that it's only left or right. And in that case, maybe I can just do maybe in this case, I can just do an else and then, but it's not certain that I could add one to it. Um, let me think. So if it's not left and right, it might not be left and right either. Like, okay, let me think about it. So maybe if it's left or right, then I would still need to add one here. And then if actually, so if middle, I would also need to add one here. So maybe in this case, I need to check instead of checking for. This is kind of wrong to check, but I think I can do this, um, and I need to.
You consider like nestedness as a way to help you?
Sorry.
Are you familiar with the term nested conditionals or nested expressions?
Yes.
Do you think that could help?
Um, yeah, I think that could definitely help. I could do an elif here, and then an elif here. I think. Um, yeah. So I'm thinking that let's say like if if three of them are true, then I don't care about like the case where middle is true. I only care about left and right. So it would still work. And in this case that I'm trying to present here, um, left would not be basically left and middle are dead, but then because I'd say left or right, right should still be available. So then I could add one. Um, other than that, I think maybe there is because like let's say if I were to put it here, so now I know my left is dead, but then my middle and my right is alive. But in this case, I would only return one instead of two, right? Because uh sorry, hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I think oh sorry, I think I accidentally toggled the whiteboard. So
That's
in
okay.
this case, I think if I have this case, the area that I'm highlighting, I think we only want to add one in here instead of two because we have four people and we either pick the four middle seats or we pick the one to the right. So
Mhm.
in this case, it's still just going to be one because we're not
Mhm.
counting the number of ways I can assign. So I think this if else statements will work. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's almost there, but I think that's the case where like that edge case that you have highlighted. Well, it's an I feel like if else I think what is if else if like if the if fails the else if eval, but I'm not sure if I feel like in a lot of programming languages like two else ifs can evaluate consecutively.
Oh.
Is that correct? Because like
Um.
I'm not always sure, but I feel a bit worried about that. It's okay. Maybe in Python it's if one of those else if evaluates it breaks out. I don't always know. But I feel
Um.
like you're on the right track and I don't want to get too bogged down here. So what I want you to do instead is to walk me through a test case example. So if you could walk me through one of the examples, like one or two examples from above or create your own examples and show me how you'd be going through the code.
Yep. I think I could do that. So, I think maybe I'm going to use this example that I have down here.
Mhm.
Yeah. And regarding the elif, maybe I could opt to return early. That could also be an option. Um, since I only want to pick one from here. But I mean, I think the elif in Python is not going to be run like if it picks one, it will not run into another. I think it will work. I'm going to pick this case where I only have one reserve slots. So it would be at so this is one uh so I think I only have one row. So let's say like my n is equal to one and then the reserve seats is 1, 3. So this is going to be what I have for my case. And for this case, I'm expecting the answer to just be one because even though I have like the all the remaining seats, I cannot pick all of them. It's either these four or these four, so expect one. Okay. I'm going to do a dry one. So I think my n will be 1, and then my seats that are taken will be 1, 3. So that'll be a 2D array, so I have to do 1, 3. And then the rows to check is just a set, and then after I go over this seats here, it says the rows to check is, or like maybe I can make it 2 just to make it clear. Maybe just 1 first. All right. So the rows to check here will give me basically just the first row. So it's going to be 1. So this is my set. Oh, my set will just have 1 in it. And then, sorry, it's on this line here. Yep. And then for the seed sets, I'm turning this array into a set for fast access. So it's going to look like a set and then with 1 and 3. Yeah, cool. So my count is 0. Now for the row and rows to check, it's going to be 1. And then I have left, middle, and right set to true. So now I'm going from 2 to 6, which means I'm checking 1, 2, and then 1, basically everything. So like 1, 2, 1, 3, actually 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. All right, so 1, 4, 1, 5. So I have these 4 slots, and I'm checking if it's in this seats, and I do, because 1, 3 is in there. So because 1, 3 is in there, I set my left to false. So at this point, my left is false, but middle and right is still true. Oh, sorry, keep toggling it something. Yep. And then for 4 and, sorry?
Yeah, continue.
Yep. So now I think for 4 and 8, there's some overlap here, but it's like 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, and then 1, 7. And in this case, none of it is in here, so I never set middle to false. It would still be true. And then for the last one, it would still be the same. So in this case, only the left part is false and middle and right will be true. So now I go into this, now I go into this check. So my left and right is not both true. So then I go to the next one. It is left or right because it's either false here and true. So it will go here, and then it will add count to be 1. And then, oh, I think I shouldn't add this in. Actually, I don't think so. I think it's okay. But my rows to check is a set. So I think I have to take n minus the length of rows to check here for it to be exact. So now I have when I go to this line, my C is 1. And I'm trying to add it with whatever, like 2 multiplied by the number of rows minus the row that I have to check, which in this case, since rows to check is a set, I just turn it into, like get the length. So it's 1, and it's 1 minus 1, so it's 0. So it's just 1 plus 0 equals 1. So I think in this case, it return a 1.
Yeah. And theoretically speaking, if I toggle the configuration so that you had 10 rows, but only one of those rows was occupied, how would that change your answer? What would you third for a C in that case?
Yep, for sure. So let's say like now, like so like at the end of this, my count was still 1, but now if I were to have 10 rows, then it would be 1 plus 2 times 10 minus 1. So that would be 1 plus 2 times 9, like 1 plus 18. So I think that would be 19 slots. Yeah, so I think because it's 19 slots because I have 1 per row, but then for the other hold on, I think I'm a little confused, but yeah, I think for the other 9 rows, each of them have 2, so that would be 18, and plus 1, that'll be 19. So yeah.
Yep, I think you're on the right track here. Okay, and do you want to briefly go over the time and space complexity of your approach?
Yep. So I
Do you have
think
to sort it out?
yes. So I think for the space complexity, I still have to create a set, but since basically I'm basing the set off of this array seats here, so it will be the number of elements in the seat. That's what I'm going to have for my space complexity. So number of elements in seats, And then for the time complexity, it will be because I'm looping through each of the row that is present in the seed, and then of course I'm doing these checks, but since like it's it's within limits, so I would say the time complexity would just be also the number of elements in seeds. So I think in this case I have the same time space complexity, like because the check for if this coordinates is in the set is O of 1, and then even though there is some overlap in this for loop, it's an order that I know it's at most like 10, and I'm doing it here like 12, just checking 12 slots here. That's a fixed number, so I would say this is my final space and time complexity.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this sounds reasonable to me. I think that this looks good. So like basically like if C was equal to S, we have a space complexity of it's in linear time O of S and linear time complexity approach as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So we still have some time left. I do want to ask like if you want to like make any optimizations or you can see places where you think you would clean up the code, like if you were to put this in a production grade setting, what are some things that you would try to do? So like in an interview setting, we tend to make code more concise, but if I like reviewed your code or if I was like concerned about the code quality, what are some checks or modifications that you'd make?
Um. Yep. So I think so. My first observation is that this part from line 87 to line 100 is very similar to each other. So maybe I could make a helper function that help me like that returns whether this range is true or false, right? Like whether I can have like seats occupy in this range. So I would have like a helper function like say can range or like it range available or something. And then I would put that code from line 89 to 102. It looks oddly similar. I'll put it into this helper function, and then this would take like output a boolean. And I think that would help me greatly clean up the code because for the column here, I only care. Oh, right. I only care about it when it's like in this range and then in this range and in this range. So like basically I can just assign 3 variable to this helper function and get my answer. And um I think I can keep this piece of logic in here, and like I think 2 is also like a random variable that I just made up here, but I could make it a constant that is like the maximum number of seats I could grab for an empty row of groups I could grab for an empty row and then like assign it here at the beginning or something like max groups per row and then assign it to 2. So at least it's not too random when someone see that I'm adding 2 here. And then I'm thinking of this, so like rows to check, and then for this set, I'm not sure if I could clean it up further, but
Yeah, that's fine.
probably
I'm just curious, like what you would do in such a setting.
um sorry. Can you repeat that? It was
I just want to like sort of delve a bit into your brain and see what type of modifications you'd make. But I do like the suggestions that you like took a look into, like the constant or what seems to be random and putting a modular function.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I also think that maybe if it's not 10, if it's like a bigger number, um then the problem kind of changes because it's not a group of 4 anymore and it's not 10. Then I think I need to somehow have them as variable and know where the partitions are. But that's like a different, like it's a generalized but way different problem then.
yeah, I see. Okay. I guess another way that I could kind of stress test you a bit is if we had to develop a logging posture for this reserved C, what's the what's some information that you'd log if you had to do like analytics or you wanted to like take a look at trend over time with your seat reservations?
Um I see. So like if I want to look at a time series of my seat reservations or something like that.
Yeah, like say an end customer or like an internal team member comes and tells you, "Hey, I want to like have you output like data or just any type of messages or outputs that indicate that help me like parse out or graph statistics." What's what would you kind of do? Again, it's open-ended. It's not right or wrong.
Okay, yeah. So basically I need to store data somehow, but I also need to know what the data would look like for me to even be able to graph it. So like, let me think. So are we trying to track the count of like the groups of four over time, or are we trying to track the um the seats that are reserved over time, I guess.
That's a good question. Let's say the groups of four.
Okay, okay. So I see. If we're trying to track the group of four, the maximum group of four, yeah, then maybe in this case, I think I would think that saving the count is not enough. Maybe I want to have like a more granular view of where those seats could be. So I think like in here, I just save the count, but maybe I could also save the index range of where they're like available. Um, which is like, for example, if I pick left and right, well, yeah, or like maybe I return like some kind of enums that let people know which part could be taken. Um, so then maybe like for this for this one I'm doing since left is taken, it could be middle or right, and then I would do middle and then right, something like that. But then I'm assuming that we would track like possible empty section, right? Like with the definition of section being either the four stitch in the middle or the two and two. Um, but yeah, like so I would say like maybe if I were to break it into like two and two versus like uh sorry, I think it has like autocomplete, but versus like group of four, then hmm, maybe I could say like oh for each and then two, let's say it has like left versus right. So maybe for this I could say what are the possible slots. So if I have middle and right, I would say middle, which is four, and then I would say like two times two on the right. So something like this. Mm,
All
just
right.
to have a visualization.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. I can see that you're on the right track. I think I was speaking more like to the from like the context of a logging posture and like seeing the frequency that we run into left into each type of assignment. If that makes sense.
Oh, I see. Like the frequency of assignment.
Yeah, so that way if an end customer comes and it's like how often do we run into each edge case scenario, they could like sort of do a grep or some type of fuzzy index search and they could see, hey, I ran into left and right at so and so frequency, or I ran into only left bookings so often, or I ran into the middle booking only so often. And by getting that logging posture, I could crunch the data and try to see like how a company could evolve its boarding structures or its boarding algorithm.
Oh, I see. I
Yeah,
see.
but that's okay. This is open-ended, and I think you're on like a good track here with this enum idea, which is also returning like the sections that were taken or the sections that were like occupied, the sections that are taken. That's another good like formulation.
Yeah, I mean, I was going the enum way because I think like this is just a count, but if we want to identify the bisection or like something more granular, then having enum would be more useful.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, so I think that we're almost over time, or we are over time. We're at
Yep.
the mark of 1 hour and 4 minutes. So I'm
Yep.
gonna give like a couple minutes for like Q&A, but before I give like I like to give feedback verbally in mock sessions.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think verbal feedback is
Great.
nicer, but before I give you feedback, I want to hear from you what you think you did well and then what you think you could have done better. So let's start with what you did well from your side.
Um, I think in this case, when I first saw this, I didn't do it before, so I was a little scared I couldn't do it at first. But after going into the example, I was able to come up with like a rough brute force solution. Um, and I think that was good. Um, and I think like at first I was able to talk about my time and space complexity. So, and it was pretty clear in my mind. So I think that was the good one. But what I could have done better, definitely make more edge case examples. I didn't think about edge case much because I was very worried with like getting the solution down first and trying to do a dry run. Um, and then I guess like this for loop kind of trips me up a little. It was like it was not too confusing, but I was overthinking that, oh, maybe I don't want to have a duplicate check here, but since it's also just two items, it's not bad. Like, so maybe I was too focused on like the too detailed like stuff. Um, yeah, but overall, I think that's about it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, my verbal feedback is similar as well. I think that you did really well on this problem. Personally, I think like it is a LeetCode medium, and I really like it because so I was given it personally for my in an interview in the past too for another,
Yep.
and I think it's good because it's a real world scenario that forces you to read a word problem, parse out a word problem, and code up a solution. And the solution isn't like overly complicated in terms of data structures. The complexity is in set or
Yeah.
even in hash maps. So it's actually more of a test of how you handle a real world problem with constraints. So the handling of
Oh.
constraints and even knowing how to leverage sparsity to get
Mm.
to a more optimal solution. It's a good problem for testing how well someone can optimize their algorithm to take your operations.
Yep.
I think like overall you did really well. I think like if I had any suggestions, there's edge case scenario thinking. So I noticed that the way that I try to nudge you more was to really think about the edge cases.
Yep.
And as well as like also kind of thinking about I think what I mentioned like the idea of sparsity or the idea of leveraging like other constraints, it's to really look at the problem statement and to see like the information that you can use to your advantage. But
Hmm.
I mean, overall, I don't have like strong negative feedback. I have mostly positive feedback. Like you have code. I'm fairly confident that if you threw this in lead code and maybe made some modifications, you can get this to pass. In fact, after this interview ends, I want you to put this on lead code and get this passing.
Yep. Okay.
I think you did well with reasoning about your time complexity, your space complexity. You got it to really efficient solutions. I think your Python code is readable and it's very concise. I really like the conciseness of of the rules engine and the way that you handle and the way you handle your algorithm. I really like how you were able to like tweak your approach as you better understood the problem. So initially, I noticed you had some struggles with the left equal to middle equal to right Boolean expressions or the rules engine from 107 to 112, but you also got out of it. So it's not like you were stuck on it fully. Eventually, maybe after some nudges and your own thinking, you were able to like figure out your way through it. So kudos to you on that as well, and just general persistency throughout solving the problem. Uh, yeah, I also make really thinking about your approaches. Like you were thinking about even though you didn't go through sorting, you did consider sorting, which is which is good which is a good thing to think about.
Yep.
And yep, you also think and you did some really good thinking with the empty row scenario. So really understanding the empty row scenario helped you in this problem where you had where you had like you eventually uh, you figured out you're not supposed to return 3 times the number of like empty rows. It's supposed to be 2 times the number of empty rows. So you got that too. Yeah, overall, I think your performance here
Yep.
is really good.
Okay. Thank you. I was a little concerned because like I thought in 45 minutes, I have to solve like 2 medium or something, or maybe more. So I was like very concerned about TAM as well. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe for the interview is only one question per 45
Well,
minutes.
in interviews, you could get like one medium, but the medium could be taken in a way to really stress test you. So you can't necessarily say like, just because I only got like one medium means that I'm like underperforming.
Oh,
I mean, it is the
okay.
case that like when you usually finish fast, like you would get like 2 mediums or something, or you get like a medium and then you wouldn't be expected to solve the second one. You just be expected to explore it a bit, if that makes more sense, right?
Okay, I see.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was able to stress test you in some other ways. So we had some remaining time, and I did ask you like how you would change your code, or like what is, or like that question about like stakeholder or customer.
Okay.
And yeah, I really like how you also typed out and laid out your thought process and how you visualized the problem. So that was done really well too. So I was able to
Okay, yeah.
follow along and understand your thought process. You're really good at technical communication.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
All right, that's all we have for today. Thank you for watching. And if you want to get immediate feedback from the same people who make hiring decisions at companies like Google, Meta, and OpenAI, hit the link in our show notes to book your session now.